Hello and welcome to OurVentura TV. I'm Sandra Siepak. On our show today, we're welcoming Dan Jacobson. He is the State Director for Environment California. Thank you so very much for joining us on the program today, Dan.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor and privilege to be here.
Good, terrific. We would like you to tell us more about Environment California and all that you do for all the residents and businesses here.
Sure. Environment California is a nonprofit environmental group.
Okay.
And we have offices up and down the state, and a lot of your viewers might know us because it wouldn't be unusual for us to knock on their door and talk to them about the environment and ask them to sign a petition or to get involved and make a phone call. Mm-hmm. What we then do is take all of that grassroots support that we gather at the local level and use it up in Sacramento to push for strong laws that'll protect our environment.
Great. Terrific. I know that you stand up for quite a few important issues here in California. Clean air, water, open space for all of us to enjoy.
Yeah.
And I know that these issues are very strong for many, many people. Let's talk about some of those issues, and we'll break them down one by one. Let's start with the coastline and preparing people to be a little bit better about protecting the coastline. Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is our ocean is beautiful. And, you know, people in California, whether you live right on the coast, like you guys are lucky enough to do here, or even if you're 100 miles inland, there's something about the Pacific Ocean that really tugs at you and makes you, I think, a happier person.
Yes, absolutely.
And unfortunately, for years, we haven't been doing everything we can to protect our ocean. And the simplest way to think about it is we're taking too much good stuff out of the ocean, we're overfishing, we're harvesting too much, and we're putting too much bad stuff into the ocean. And right now, when we talk about ocean protection, the real two issues that we're talking about are how do we stop offshore drilling? Oil companies are continuing to look at the coast of California, and while we might see a beautiful sunset and a beach to sit on, a lot of other people are seeing oil rigs. And we want to make sure that there's no more oil rigs that are put up off the coast of California. We've already had too many, we've had too many accidents, we have too many rigs. We need to make sure that that's protected.
Right.
The second thing.
Yeah, we really want to see more people enjoying the coastline and enjoying the beaches, and that's something that we need to preserve.
You know, and it's a critical part about who we are in California. The coast is really, and it's in the state constitution, designed for everyone. And that's the way it should be. The other real issue that we're seeing is too much plastic pollution. And you know, a lot of your viewers will see all the time stories about another whale or a dolphin that died and was washed up on a beach. And when the scientists looked at it, they'll have found 80 pounds, 40 pounds, 30 pounds, 20 pounds of single-use plastic that's just ended up in the stomachs of these incredible animals. And you know, that really hits me.
Oh, it hits all of us, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, and you just think like, gee, do I really need to use that plastic bag for 5 minutes that ends up polluting our environment for thousands of years? And the answer is no. So we have to take steps to reduce our single-use plastic.
And you are. Your organization is taking great steps. You are definitely making strides in the right direction with the ban on plastic grocery bags. So most of us now are well aware that we cannot use that, and we carry our own bags to the store, which is a great thing that's happened.
Yeah, I mean, that really came because, I mean, a lot of people did carry their bags to the grocery stores. And, you know, I mean, that's how my parents and my grandparents, they got their groceries to and from the store by using a bag that looked something like this. And it was only recently, you know, that people started to say, hey, here's a single-use plastic bag. You can use it once and then throw it away. And that's nuts. And people were putting a stick of, you know, you'd go to the store and you'd buy a stick of gum and they would double bag it. And you'd go like, this is just crazy. And individual cities started to say, we don't want to do that anymore. And finally a state law was passed. And now everyone in California is saying no to plastic bags. And what's cool is it's not just here in California, but it's happening now all over the country and all over the world.
Right. It is making a big difference in other states as well. So I think people are following.
And that's a big part about what I think our job on the environment is we have to show that it's possible.
Absolutely. I also want to talk about clean water and lead-free water. For many of our children in schools today, this is a big issue. What can we do about that particular problem?
You know, obviously, and rightfully so, parents and everyone was concerned when people started to hear about Flint, Michigan.
Right.
And everyone sort of said, oh my God, what's happening? And we looked at that and said, this is tragic what's happening in Flint, and we're really working in that state to try to help and to do what we can.
Right.
But we also wanted to look and go, is that a problem in our own communities? And we started to look at schools and ask schools to voluntarily test their drinking water and to see what the results were. And the results came back, and they're not good.
Right.
I mean, in over 30% of the schools where they're voluntarily testing, they're finding levels of lead that exceed the normal standards that a doctor would say you should be exposed to. And let's just make this clear, because this is really important. Pediatricians and the American Association of Pediatricians will tell us the safe level for lead is 0.
Okay.
We're not supposed to have any lead in our drinking water, and what we're finding when we do these tests is 5 parts per billion, 10 parts per billion, 15 parts per billion, and in some places even higher. We can't expose our kids to this.
None of that is acceptable.
Yeah, it's exactly. And
That's
so we've got to
true.
take steps to make sure that we can
Right.
ensure that our schools, when our kids go to get that drink of water that they've been waiting for all day, and they drink that down, that's got to be as clean and with no toxics in it.
Very good. Let's also talk about conservation, and we're running short on nature also. It's seemed to be that there's not enough nature for all of us to enjoy these days, to go hiking and biking and just walking around. It seems like everything is being overdeveloped. What are we doing about that?
We've really got to take steps to make sure, especially the national parks that are probably, as Ken Burns has said, the best idea that America ever had, are protected and preserved.
Okay.
There's always going to be a developer that wants to put a condo, Joshua Tree View condo that would go right up there.
Right.
And someone will buy it, but at some point as a community, we all have to say, let's preserve and protect these areas and make sure that we're not overdeveloping, that we're going back into areas, that we're using our cities and our suburbs and building double-decker homes there and public transportation. There's easy solutions to it, but protecting nature is a primary issue.
Oh yeah.
That again, I think we all feel it when you see it, when you're in nature, you have something about it makes you feel good. We got to make sure everyone can have that.
Right, and especially here in California, because there's so much to enjoy. And like you said, there are many, many parks, certainly many areas to go hiking and just walking. And we will need that. That's also for future generations too.
Yeah, and it's important that the animals have that too. Everything from the insects to the rabbits that you see sometimes when you're on the trail to
That's right.
It's a web of life,
Right.
and that web is strongest when we're out in nature, in the forests and out in the wild. And when we destroy that, we really tug at the strings of that web, and that's what we've got to protect.
Also, let's talk about one thing that your organization has been very good about is bringing solar homes to the forefront. We see more and more of that now with people adding solar to their roofs and making a big difference adding solar all the way around. How do you address that?
It's really exciting. In 2006, we passed a law that then Governor Schwarzenegger signed called the Million Solar Roofs Initiative.
Okay.
And the idea was to give homeowners and small business owners a rebate if they put solar up on their roof. And we knew through basic economics that if you did that the price would come down.
Sure.
And over the past 10 years, it's exactly what we've seen. The price has come down. The rebate doesn't exist. And now there's a program that'll start in 2020 that says every single new home in the state of California is going to have a solar panel on it.
And how great is that? That's really
awesome.
That's really important. And I think that really makes a difference too. Future use of utilities and things like that, you're going to see your bills go down, which will be a big help to many, many residents too.
How happy would you be if
I'm very happy about
you
that.
could use the sun to make your refrigerator go?
That's right. Let's go for that. It just makes sense. It just makes more sense. So it's good to see. Also, you have successfully advocated for a ban on toxic chemicals. Let's talk about that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a good news, bad news. The good news is, you know, in the past we've been able to pass some laws that protect especially kids from toxics in their toys.
Right.
The bad news is, I mean, there's over 78,000 chemicals that we know that are in use.
Right.
And we've tested the health impacts of maybe 10 or 15% of those.
Okay.
So there's still so much more that we have to do on that, and we really have to try to figure out a way to create a system here in the U.S. where we don't put products out on the market until we've tested them for safety.
Very important, very important. I think also one of the things, and we touched on this earlier, but let's go into it a little bit more, is about plastic pollution, which is the styrofoam containers and the reusable kind of things that we need to focus on. When you go and get your coffee in the morning, maybe you can use a cup instead of the one that they provide. I think you brought one here. It's important to focus on this and try to get everybody involved in doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing to remember is that the single-use habit is one that we should be breaking.
Okay.
And, you know, we've got products, and I think everyone has a reusable bag somewhere in their house.
Sure.
Almost everyone has a cup like this. If not, you can get them almost anywhere. You can use this as I have. It's a little beat up hundreds of times. And you're really making a change, not only in the action that you're doing, but everyone who sees you drinking out of this cup or using that reusable bag.
Right.
The stores that you go to then can make a switch, and they can buy less of the cups or they can get less of the bags.
Right.
And it's really an example to me of an individual can really have a tremendous impact on protecting our environment by saying no to single-use plastic.
Yeah, exactly. And even the take-home containers, the same thing. I think, you know, more and more restaurants are abiding by those changes. And I've noticed several restaurants aren't using the styrofoam as much anymore. Styrofoam just doesn't break down, so we have to make some changes there as well.
You know, it'll be really impressive, and I'm really glad to hear that you're not using that styrofoam, is when people go to restaurants, if they bring their own containers.
Okay, just like the bags.
Exactly.
You
and
can
it's
start
just
bringing your own containers.
It's just a habit. And, you know,
Sure.
I know in my neighborhood there's a couple restaurants that the portions are really big, and me and, you know, my family, we can never finish it all, and we always end up getting it to go. But we've gotten into the habit now of saying, you know, just in the trunk of our car, let's just always have a couple of those Tupperware containers or what have you.
It's a great idea. Yeah.
And we can bring it home, and it's so easy. We can throw that in the fridge, and the kids know what it is the next day when they need a snack.
And that styrofoam doesn't make it to the ocean. It's not going to find its way there, so that's a good thing too.
Which is what that plastic ends up doing.
Right. What are some of the other issues you're working on, real quick here, for Environment California?
You know, we're really looking at electric transportation.
Okay.
Last year we passed a law that ensures that we get 100% of our energy from clean energy sources by 2045, so that's great.
Right.
But the next big issue that we have to tackle is making sure that when we drive our trucks, our buses, our school buses, that these can be electric buses and that they can be clean.
Okay.
It's good for our health, and it's good for the environment, and in most cases, it's even good for our pocketbook.
And our issue here would be that we would try to get most of these vehicles, both trucks and cars, to be electric by 2035. Is that correct?
Yeah, I
what
mean,
you're hoping for? Is that your kind of goal to make it to that?
Really, anything we can do that would be as soon as possible.
Okay.
I mean, there's already now a rule in the state that says by 2040, every transit bus is going to be an electric bus.
Right, and that's important.
That's huge.
Right.
We're trying to push for a state bill that would say school buses, but there's other programs out there where people can even get involved with this themselves. They can look at electric cars, you can look at charging stations and figure out things you can do.
Okay, terrific. Could you give us the website so we could have folks take a look at that and get more information on how you're doing so many things here for residents?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that. The website is really easy. It's environmentcalifornia, all spelled out, .org.
That's great.
And it's the same with, I think, our Facebook page, and our Twitter handle, I think, is ENVCA, but easy to find us.
So good. So you can get a lot of good information and more about what Environment California is doing for everybody here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dan Jacobson, for joining us on the show today. Appreciate it. And let's make California great again.
Exactly.
Terrific.
Well, thank you.
All righty. Thank you for joining us on Our Ventura TV. I'm Sandra Siepak. See you next time. Bye, everyone.